All right. Well, we're going to get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today virtually. Um, we have been doing virtual presentations for Avenues for a while now, and I have to admit, I much prefer seeing people in person. I'll do the Zoom events, but I prefer to see you face to face. So bear with me today as we get through some information on Avenues by Brio Living Services. Specifically today, we are going to be focusing on our home concierge branch of Avenues. You might be familiar with Brio Living Services, but if you are not familiar with Brio, I want to tell you the connection. A few years ago, Porter Hills got a brand new name, Porter Hills Village, and you may be more familiar with Porter Hills. Porter Hills is now called Brio Living Services. For years, we've been in the West Michigan area providing support and care to older adults here in West Michigan. And Avenues is just one part of Brio Living Services. Avenues specifically is our Aging at Home program. So we're going to be talking today about aging at home. I should mention also, my name is Caitlin Mills. I've been with Avenues for about a year now, and I've been with Brio Living Services for about 5 years, and it's been such a pleasure to do the job that I get to do every day. So we're going to jump in here. We're talking about aging at home today. And I'm going to put you all on the spot. I'm going to see if I can find one brave soul who would be willing to tell me, first off, are you interested in aging at home? Is this something that you have thought of for yourself? And if so, why are you interested in aging at home? What do people feel out there? Why do we want to stay home? There's got to be one brave soul out there who will answer me.
Easier for our kids to visit.
Easier for our kids to visit. Mary, that's a great one. What else? Anyone else? Why do you want to stay home? Why are you contemplating this?
Well, this is Margaret. It's comfortable to be
Yes.
home. It's what we're used to. I watched my mother age in a assisted living care facility, and I will delay that in my life as long as I possibly can.
Ah, yes. That is something I hear so often during this presentation is I am comfortable at home. I love my home. It's a place that I've envisioned aging. And Margaret, I've heard so many people say the same thing. I put my parents in assisted living. My sister was there, my cousin was there, and it was really difficult to see them age in that setting. It maybe wasn't the best experience, and I don't want that for myself. And I think a lot of people in your age category or who are thinking about aging are thinking just that. I am interested in the freedom of aging at home. What's interesting is that we who work in the senior living industry are seeing this as well. We're seeing this really interesting shift in what people are wanting. People are becoming a little bit more vocal about where they actually want to age. And we are seeing, especially here in West Michigan, that there are thousands of seniors who are saying to us, we're not interested in moving to your community. We're interested in staying home. We're interested, you might hear this buzz phrase, we're interested in aging in place, aging at home. And this is something for me that is not really shocking. I am a homebody. I've always been a homebody. And when I think of a place that I want to grow old, it's in my home with my husband, surrounded by the things that make me feel comforted, surrounded by my neighbors and my family. All of those components, those are the things that people are thinking about as they're thinking about aging at home. And yet there's some nuance to this too, right? Aging at home, if it was completely simple, I think a lot more people would do it. If it was totally easy, wouldn't everyone age at home? But there's some nuance. People start to ask themselves, well, gosh, if I'm going to age at home, Who is going to help me maintain my home? Who is going to help me, gosh, shovel my snow on weeks like last week when we had a massive snowstorm? Who is going to care for me at home? Am I going to ask my kids to do that? Am I going to have my faculties about me? Will I be able to manage my own care? What will that look like? So there's nuance that comes with this. And yet we're seeing in the industry this shift, this change in what people want. I'm going to tell you something next that we are not seeing a change in. We are not seeing a change in how much senior care actually costs. You might be familiar with these numbers, so forgive me if this is a review for you, but I'm always surprised at how many older adults have no idea what it costs for care, for aging-related support as you're aging. So I want to tell you how much it costs. And these are numbers that I pulled right from Porter Hills. Our numbers are really similar to other senior living communities here in West Michigan. So here in West Michigan, on average, for assisted living for 1 year of care, it's about $100,000 for 1 year. For skilled nursing, even higher. You're looking at about $150,000 for 1 year of care for one person. I am a social worker by background, I should mention. And before I worked for Porter Hills, I worked in a job that had little to no funding. And when I came to Porter Hills and I started to hear these numbers, I was absolutely shocked. I am 31 years old right now, and I remember going home to my husband and saying, Cal, his name is Cal, we need to save more money. We need to invest more, because if this is what the cost of care is today, what will the cost for care be when we are in our 80s? And I think a lot of people feel this. I know my grandmas who still live at home are feeling the pressure of this. Do I have enough dollars set aside for this? Am I prepared for this? And a lot of times people start to really ask the question, these numbers are so high. Isn't there a way? Isn't there some type of coverage that I already have to pay for my aging journey? And so people will ask me, or they'll start to ask, well, gosh, what about Medicaid? I know that's a thing. Is that something that I'll have access to in the future? Will I be able to use Medicaid to pay for my care? Medicaid is a great service. Medicaid is going to be for people whose assets dip below a certain amount, meaning your overall assets right now have to dip below about $2,000 in total for you to ever be able to qualify for Medicaid. And if you do qualify, Medicaid is only going to cover you in skilled nursing. They're not going to pay for care at home. They're not going to pay for care in assisted living. And the reality is that most people are never going to financially qualify for this. Your assets are too great to qualify for Medicaid. And sometimes people will say, well, what about Medicare? I have Medicare. Can my Medicare cover aging-related costs? That's a great question. I wish the answer was yes. It is unfortunately no. Medicare exists to cover your medical specific expenses. Things like medical stays in the hospital for short periods, things like short-term rehab stays, physical therapy, in-home therapy, medically specific bills. Medicare does not pay for any aging-related care, not at home, not in a care-based setting. And then sometimes people will think, well, gosh, I'm a veteran. Do we have any veterans on today's call maybe? If you're a veteran, talking with the VA is absolutely something to explore. You might have VA benefits that one day would cover you in skilled nursing if and when the time comes. There's some nuance to VA benefits. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on what type of service you served, how you served, how long you served. So there are factors. Being a veteran alone doesn't qualify you for this coverage. There are a lot of things that they take into consideration to determine, is the VA going to cover your care one day as you're aging? And then This is what most Americans are going to end up doing, is private paying. Most of the people that I know who've moved to Porter Hills, for example, or even my own family members, my grandparents, their assets are too great. They don't qualify for Medicaid. So they're left having to then private pay for care, whether that's care in their home or care in a community. And that's something to be thinking about, something to be planful about, something to be thinking through. And then sometimes people will say to me, well, gosh, I've got long-term care insurance. I was thinking when I was in my 50s, and I did put something in place. Well, great. Long-term care insurance is a plan that you might have purchased when you were younger, with the concept of when I start to need care later on, great, they're going to give me some dollars towards my care. There's a lot of nuance that comes with long-term care insurance. Most specifically is they're going to give you money towards your care, but you have to figure everything else out on your own. You have to find your own care if you want to age at home. You've got to manage that. All the components and the nuance that comes with aging at home, you've got to do that on your own, or your family has to figure that out. They're just going to give you some money towards that. And then finally, there are programs like Avenues. Avenues is the only program like it here in West Michigan. We are what's called a continuing care at home program. You will see other programs like us throughout the nation. There are about 40 programs like Avenues all over the United States. And the idea of these types of programs are, let us bring the senior living community to you in your home. Let us make your aging experience easy. Let us manage it for you, and let us pay for it for you. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how Avenues is a plan for financial coverage for your future care as well. So what is Avenues? How is this a solution to aging at home, but also the financial coverage piece that comes with, how do I pay for my care? What is this going to look like for me? Well, first and foremost, the idea with Avenues is you are aging at home. You are staying home. You are aging in place, as they say. The Avenues program was started back in 2011, and it's designed for you to stay home. Since we opened this program, and we're really proud of this, every single member that has been a part of Avenues has successfully stayed home through end of life with our help, with our care, with our oversight, our advocacy. And we're really proud of that. We say it a lot because it's exactly what this program was designed to do. With Avenues, you have to live in the greater Grand Rapids area. So we service about a 30 to 35 mile radius around Grand Rapids. But we are bringing the benefits of the senior living community to you in your home so that you can age there if that's your preference. Another big component to Avenues is our asset protection, is what I like to call it. Avenues allows you to pay for your future care, but you're paying for it at a capped cost, at today's cost or in today's dollars. The idea of this is that once you become a member of Avenues, and I'll share later what those costs look like, once you become a member of Avenues, all of your future care is included with your Avenues membership. It doesn't matter how much care you end up needing. You might need 1 year of care. You might need 5 years of care, 12 years of care. It doesn't matter. Avenues allows you to plan for that in the future. It allows you to have coverage for your aging related needs. Avenues is a program that still falls under our not-for-profit category. So this is a program that is still overseen by the state of Michigan, which with my social work background, I love when programs are overseen by the state. I think it's important. It's good for the balance and the oversight. They look at how Avenues is run financially, how we are run in general. And so we have not only the greater Brio Living Services organization behind us, but we have the state too, to make sure that Avenues is on track. So what is Avenues? How does it work? If this is the first time you're hearing about a program like us, what is this thing? And I get that question a lot. People don't know about continuing care at home, and it makes sense. We're the only program like it here in Grand Rapids. If you haven't heard about us, you haven't heard about us oftentimes. So what is it? How does it work? Well, first and foremost, the foundation of Avenues, the very backbone, if you will, of our program is what we call our member navigators. Our member navigators make up our wellness team as a whole. And when you join Avenues, you are assigned to your very own member navigator. It's kind of like a nurse navigator. Our member navigators have different backgrounds. They might be nurses, they might be LPNs, they might be social workers, they could be someone with a wellness background as well. Their goal, their job, is to build a long-term relationship with you as you're aging, and is to walk alongside of you and your family through every step of your aging journey. Their job is to make sure that you have everything that you could possibly need as you're aging at home, whether it is the maintenance of your home, and we're going to dive into that today, or whether it's your care, whether it's your medical needs. Their job is to make sure you have what you need as you're aging. We like to joke in this program, or I like to joke with our navigators, that they are very, very similar to having an oldest daughter. Does anyone have an oldest daughter in their family? Anyone? Oh, I'm getting some hands and some nods. Okay. If you have an oldest daughter, or if you are an oldest daughter, here's their reputation. Oldest daughters are the people that you want around when things go wrong, because they are oftentimes fierce advocates. They are oftentimes organized. They work well under stress and pressure, and when there's a crisis, they oftentimes know what to do. Our navigators are like oldest daughters in that way. They are fierce advocates for our members. And if you ask our Avenues members, most of them will say to you, my member navigator feels like family. They don't replace your family. They're not there to tell your kids that they can't walk alongside of you as you age, but they are there to alleviate your family from some of the responsibility and roles that oftentimes naturally occur as your parent is aging. So what types of things? Let's break these down. What are our navigators actually doing? What are the actual services that we're providing to our members as they're aging? When you join Avenues, your member navigator sits down with you, and she or he looks at what we call the 8 dimensions of wellness. You'll see this little wheel on our screen here. Our goal and our hope is that you feel a sense of wellness in all of these areas, whether it's financial wellness, whether it's intellectual wellness, whether it's physical wellness. We are very, very supportive of proactive and taking a proactive approach to health and wellness, because we have seen and we believe that the more proactive you are about aging, usually your experience with aging is much different than people who ignore aging, who don't take any proactive steps in their own aging journey. Let me give some examples of this. So we had a gentleman who joined Avenues, and in one of his first meetings with his member navigator, they were getting to know each other. He said to her name is Jessica, he said to her, you know, I am so terrified that my aging journey will look similar to my father's and his mother's. And he went on to explain that quite a few members in his family developed dementia as they aged. And he said, I saw the progression of it, and I saw the course, and I know what it looks like. And I know that it's very possible that that too will be the journey I take. And I want to do everything I can to combat that. I know I can't stop it entirely, but what can I do today when I'm in my 70s to try and work against this? And so his navigator said, great, I've got some really great research and I've got a few books that I'm going to lend to you, but let's sit down and actually talk through, what does research say? What do studies show? What are things that you can do proactively today to keep your mind, your brain, your body engaged to fight against this, to work against this? And so they did just that. One of the things that the member navigator said to him was, would you ever, as a way of staying engaged intellectually, would you ever be interested in taking some classes at a local college? And so they started talking about OLLI classes at Aquinas or the adult learning classes at Calvin College. And this man said, you know what, I will try whatever, sure. And so his navigator signed him up for those. We believe in proactive wellness so much in this program that we give our members money each month to spend on wellness. So something like a class, like this gentleman was taking, that was something that Avenues paid for. Because for him, that was something for his wellness. And he used his monthly wellness benefit towards that. This also might look like, gosh, proactive future planning. This one is huge. You're going to hear me say the word plan probably 50 times today, because we just really believe that being proactive and planning for the future is just the key. Your member navigator is an expert in aging at home and is trained and very equipped for having and facilitating proactive conversations with you and maybe even with your family. So our navigators are oftentimes checking in with members and saying, how are you feeling about the future? Do you have things figured out? Things like, gosh, pre-funeral planning. Do you have your patient advocate figured out? Do you even know what it means to have a patient advocate? Does your patient advocate know the responsibility that they hold with that role in your life? Your navigator might ask you questions throughout the course of aging about, what do you want end of life to look like? If something were to happen and you're incapacitated, what do you want? What if you can't stay home safely anymore? What do you want that to look like? Do you want round-the-clock care? Do you want to be in more of a social setting? Those types of things, that's the role of the navigator, is to ask, is to have those hard conversations and to record those things so that later down the road, when something happens health-wise to you and your kids are asking the questions that maybe they were never comfortable enough to ask, they might ask your navigator, what did my mom want? I have no idea. We've had so many adult kids ask us that. And we're able to say, yeah, we talked with her about that. This is what she shared. This is what she wrote down in her will or in her patient advocate paperwork. So the advocacy role is huge for our member navigators. This might also look like our home concierge services. This one is really important. This is something that so many of our members use, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this next. As you are aging at home, there are components of maintaining that setting that will likely become more challenging. Things like home maintenance, repairs to your home, things like lawn care, home cleaning. What about things like cooking? So many of our members, even our members who are younger and some of our members who are older in age, will say to us, I am done cooking. I'm bored of it. I don't enjoy it. It's becoming challenging for me, and I would like a solution to that. Things like lawn service, private car transports. We've got so many members who either are no longer driving because they can't drive, or even maybe you're still driving actively, but you're a member in this program and you say, gosh, I need a drop off at the airport. Simple things like that. Technology support. We have members who call us and say, listen, my kids live out of town and I just got this new cell phone. I have no idea how to set it up. Or I'm having issues with my printer or my Wi-Fi or my home security system. Can you send someone out to help us with this? might look like personal assistance. We've had members reach out and say, listen, I would love for someone to just help with like the balancing of my finances each month. Or they might say to us, gosh, my attorney of 20 years retired and I have no idea who to use next, but I need someone. These are all components of aging at home where our members reach out to us and say, I don't know who to use for this. Who do you think I should use? And when we started Avenues, our member navigators were doing all of this. So when members were calling and saying, I really need someone to do my lawn for me, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. Our navigators were sourcing and background checking and finding safe and vetted vendors to bring into your home setting to manage these things. And after years of the member navigators doing that and saying, gosh, this is a lot because we need to focus on the health and wellness of our members, we decided to enter this beautiful partnership with an actual home concierge program called Dorvie. And so what we do now is we pay for our members to have access to our Dorvie specialist. And her role now is to help us with these things, is to find these vetted professionals to bring into our members' homes. So an example I love to give of this is we had a member who joined Avenues back in April. And she's a single gal. She's mid-70s. She's a retired teacher. She's wonderful. She owns a home and is, very capable. She's been maintaining her home for years independently. But there was a storm that rolled through Grand Rapids back in the spring, and she had this massive tree go down in her yard. Massive. And the next day, she's assessing the damage and realized, okay, I need to get a company out here to do this tree for me. I have no idea how to do it myself. So she started calling places, and the answer she was getting from people was, we have a month wait list. We can't get out there for weeks. Or the quotes she was getting were just absolutely outrageous. And she just said, I don't know. I have no personal connection for bringing someone in for this tree myself. And in the back of her mind, she said, I think I can call Avenues for that. And so she did. She called Avenues and she spoke with our Dorvie concierge gal, whose name is Kat, and she's on today's call. I'm going to introduce her in a bit here. And they were able to find a company to come out the next day to take care of this tree for her. They were able to find a few people actually. So they provided her with a few different options. And then it was our responsibility, or Dorvie's responsibility, to make sure that these tree people were vetted and background checked and appropriate and safe to be coming to one of our members' homes. That is the level of support that we offer with our home concierge part of Avenues. We had another gentleman who joined Avenues back in the summer. He joined and he told us, you know what, I actually am leaving in January for a world cruise and I will be gone for half the year. And this man, he actually has kids that are local, but his kids have kids and they're busy and they work full time. And he said, you know what, I really need someone just to check in on my house once a week. But I don't want to ask my kids to do that. That just feels like a lot to be asking. And so what he did is he called and he asked Dorvie. And Dorvie was able to find him a safe, vetted, reliable house sitter for while he's gone. That is a level of support that we offer through that home concierge piece of Avenues. So how exactly does it work? It's actually quite simple. Our Avenues members are familiar and they know our home concierge program, Dorvie. And when they need something, they pick up the phone and they call Dorvie directly and they say, this is what I'm looking for. Can you find someone for me? And then Dorvie says, absolutely. We're going to find someone and we'll get back with you. Their job is to make sure that they're finding vendors, again, that are safe, reliable. I've said that word safe a few different times. That's really important to us. You might not need someone to background check people for you now, but when you are 85, 90, 95, we want to make sure that whoever is coming to our members' homes are people that we trust, people that we feel comfortable being around you, that aren't going to take any advantage of our members. On our call today, I want to introduce actually Kat Murphy. She's our Dorvie concierge gal. Kat, can you give a little wave and do you want to say a quick hello to everyone?
Hi, everyone. It's really nice to meet you and see some faces. I work very closely with the Avenues team and with the coordinators to help with services. So I would most likely be the person that you would be speaking to. So I'm here to help out in any way I can.
Yeah. Kat, I've heard you say this funny thing a few times, and I've heard the rest of your team say it too, is that you all love a good challenge, Dorothy.
We've had some.
And over the past year, over the years, you have said, people, I wish they would challenge us more with harder asks. You know, we keep getting the same ones, grass and snow and cat sitters, but really give us something that's challenging.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if you could tell us today, what is one of the most unique things that one of our members or someone has asked for you to find provider-wise?
I know we always tend to share our squirrel story whenever we
Oh,
speak
sure.
to people about unique requests. We had a member call in a panic on a Friday morning to say that she thought she could hear critters, up in her attic. And she was leaving on vacation that afternoon and she wanted to have it taken care of before she left. So I got off the phone with her and called my team member that helps me vet vendors, and I'm like, hey, we got to get on this and really get something going today. So she just started researching that minute, got a gentleman on the phone who owned a company that dealt with this type of situation. And what's nice is that he goes in and sets up traps, and he doesn't kill any of the animals. He takes them off-site. So he went that later that morning and checked it out. He could see that the squirrel family was living in the dormer of the home. He set up the traps, and he went back that weekend, like every other day, to check to see, and he pretty much caught the whole family. And he gave the members updates every day by text saying, okay, I caught one today, I caught one today. And then he filled up all the holes so that it wouldn't happen again, and they were able to enjoy their vacation. And he had it all done and completed probably by, that Monday or Tuesday when they were coming home.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great example. And thank you, Kat, for that. And thank you for being on this call. This reminds me so much. My dad's mom, my paternal grandma, who I'm quite close with, she is aging at home right now. And my parents, it's either a blessing or a curse, they say sometimes, but they live 5 minutes down the road. And my sweet dad has said so many times, she's still completely independent. She does everything, but house maintenance is just becoming a lot for her. And so he is finding, and my dad works full time still, he is finding that he is at my grandparents' house multiple times a week, whether it's taking the trash down to the curb on an icy day, cleaning out her gutters in the fall. I mean, gosh, just she'll a few weeks ago her pilot light went out, she had no idea what to do, so things like that she just, while my grandpa was alive, he did a lot of that for her, and now she is relying on kids. And I think that's an experience that a lot of people have when they're aging at home is, gosh, am I going to ask my kids for all of this? And if so, it's a lot. And so our home concierge part of Avenues is meant to really alleviate that. Sure, you can ask your kids, and your kids might really want to clean your gutters every fall. Wouldn't that be fun? But if you want to alleviate that from those types of responsibilities, then our home concierge and using Dorvie is something that a lot of our members have just appreciated over the years. So what else? What else is Avenues? Yes, we've got this home concierge part of this program, but what else? Yeah, we're helping people age at home. Well, how are we doing that? A big component of this is actual care, the care that we are providing to you as you age. And for most of you on this call today, this is probably something that feels very far out into the future. My guess is that most of you are still completely independent, living at home, and you're thinking, yeah, care is 8, 9, 10 years down the road, maybe for me. So it's hard to envision a time when we're going to need this. And yet, Avenues is more of that proactive approach to having a plan in place for care. And let me break down what that means and what that looks like. First and foremost, the role of your navigator is advocacy, medical, and care coordination. Your member navigator is overseeing all of the parts of the care that you need as you're aging at home. That means bringing care into your home setting, being a part of that, helping you determine, what do I need when I'm aging? Is it time for things like shower chairs or toilet seat risers? Do we need to make any accommodations to our home to make life easier if we're aging there? An example I love to give of this advocacy is we have some members that joined our program. It's white, single woman actually, who joined. She was 73 when she joined, and she was healthy and independent. She walked 3 to 5 miles every day. She was just a force to be reckoned with, I think is the best way of explaining her. But about 5 years into the program, she found herself at a specialist appointment, receiving a diagnosis that was going to completely change her aging experience. She was diagnosed with something called pulmonary fibrosis. I don't know if you're familiar with that, then you know that it's a terminal illness. And she left this appointment just feeling absolutely just devastated. And one of the first calls that she made was to her member navigator, who said to her, take a breath. Let's get together. Why don't you have your kids over and let's start to talk about what this means and what this is going to look like for the future. And so they did just that. Her 3 kids came to town, and all together they sat down and talked about, what does this mean? And then they started to plan. And the navigator said, listen, if the progression of your illness looks like this is what we're going to do to make sure you have everything you need. If the progression looks like this or like this, here's how we're going to respond to make sure that you are able to age with ease and you have everything. And over the years, her prognosis or her illness, it did progress. One day she was actually out walking because she was still really active. And she actually took a fall unexpectedly and broke a hip. And on the way to the hospital, her first call, surprise, surprise, was to her member navigator, who said to her, I'm going to meet you at Blodgett. You just hang tight. And her navigator met her there, sat with her in the emergency room, and was there with her every step of her hospitalization. And then most importantly, when it came time for her to discharge home, it was really clear that she was going to need support. Her kids were, saying that we can help, but we've got kids of our own and we've got jobs and everyone's trying to figure this out. And the navigator said, nope, that's my job. That's why your mom is an Avenues member. And so her member navigator arranged all of her in-home care. She ordered all the equipment she was going to need. So when she got home, she had shower chairs, walker, wheelchair, grab bars installed. The navigator had thought about all those components because, again, we are experts in aging at home. We know how to respond to our members if they have a health crisis or if they're aging and they need that support. The role of the navigator was even to pick this woman up on discharge day. She brought her home, got her settled, and her caregivers were waiting and already arranged for her. That is the level and the depth of the support of a program like Avenues. This might also look like care coverage. That's where the financial coverage piece comes in. Your care, that's covered by Avenues. So this woman I was just talking about, she had care coming for, I think, 3 months after her hospitalization, on and off, just for extra support. She wasn't paying for that care out of pocket. She had coverage with Avenues. Her Avenues plan was covering that care for her. This might also look like medical transportation. This is huge. This is one of our most widely utilized services with Avenues. So many of our members need assistance getting to medical appointments, things like colonoscopies, things like surgery, things like maybe there's an appointment that you just want your navigator to be at. to take notes, to help ask the right questions, to advocate for you if you're not pleased with the medical care that you're getting. And the medical transportation, this isn't just for our members who aren't driving anymore. Our younger members use this too. Gosh, this is widely utilized. She was one of our first members in this program. She joined in 2012, I want to say. The first time I ever met her, I asked her, what is the one piece of avenues that you just think is irreplaceable? And immediately she said, medical transportation. And she said, my husband passed away and I still drive. I'm independent, but life happens and things come up. And she went on to tell me I had a knee replacement surgery. And it was just so happened to be the foot or the leg where I needed to push a pedal for my car with that leg. And she said, I needed to rely on avenues for getting around, for getting to post-op appointments, for getting home from the hospital. And of course, long term, she could drive again. But for her, it gave her such a sense of peace knowing I can ask avenues for these things. This might look like short-term support. So this could be, I have a surgery, I need short-term support after, and then when I'm done, I say, okay, you guys can back off, I'm good again. Or this might be long-term support. You might be aging and find yourself needing a caregiver there at home with you every day. So let's talk about membership. What does it mean to actually be a member in this program? Avenues is a proactive program. Said it a few times now. This is not a program where you wait until you need care and then you join. This is a program where you have to join before you're needing care, while you are still independent. So we have criteria for getting into avenues. You have to be 55 years of age or older. You must be currently living independently, so not already needing any type of care or support in the home. You must pass a wellness screening, and you'll have to be what I call reasonably healthy to qualify for avenues. We do actually a medical underwriting process to see if you qualify. So we do a look back 5 years into your health history to determine, is avenues something that you're going to qualify for medically? There are some diagnoses that are automatic disqualifiers for avenues. There are a lot of diagnoses where we kind of need to look at your record. We look at the nuance. What does your overall lifestyle look like? What does your treatment for this diagnosis look like? What does the progression of it look like, etc.? And finally, you have to maintain your health insurance, because what your health insurance covers is completely different than what avenues covers, and vice versa. All right, this is always the golden question. And I like to just tell people, because you want to know anyways, what does it cost to be in avenues? And so I'm going to share some of those numbers with you. Avenues is an entrance fee based model. You pay a one-time initial entrance fee to join avenues, and your specific price is based on age. So this program is less expensive the younger in age you are and goes up in cost as you age. And then after you pay your entrance fee, you start paying a monthly service fee, and you continue to pay that as long as you're an Avenues member. I'll give an example of cost for you all. So we'll take, for example, a 75-year-old who is single. I say single because we do offer discounts to couples who join the program. For a 75-year-old who is single, their one-time entrance fee would be $142,000. And their monthly service fee would be $650 a month. For a 75-year-old couple, where each person is 75, they would each pay an entrance fee of $124,000. And they would each pay a monthly service fee of $624. I usually like to take a moment or two to reflect back to one of my earlier slides where we talked about paying for care out of pocket in West Michigan. And that today, assisted living is about $100,000 for 1 year of care for one person. Avenues, in so many ways, is a plan financially for the future. You are paying for a plan so that in the future, when you start to need care, all of that care is covered by this Avenues plan. And this is care in the home or care in more of a facility-based setting, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing. It's coverage no matter where you are and no matter what level of care you need. All right, we're coming to a close here, but I'd like to share about this gentleman I worked with back in the spring. His name is John. John's a real guy, but this is not really John's photo. There are two types of people in this lifetime that make me very nervous and a little sweaty. One of those types are retired attorneys. Do we have any retired attorneys on today's call? Anyone who's willing to admit it? No, none. Okay. Oh, great. I'm in great company. Wonderful. Do we have any retired CPAs? Great. I'm in a fabulous company. That's why I'm feeling so not nervous today. Wonderful. CPAs and retired attorneys make me nervous because they are intense and great question askers, and I love them and hate them at the same time. John is a retired CPA, and every time we met, the first thing out of John's mouth was, "Caitlin, get out your calculator." And every time I said, "Yes, sir." But John, very early on, he told me two things. He said, "I have two goals, and I don't know if Avenues will help me reach them." He said, "I am not a rich man, but I have done well. I've saved hard. I've worked really hard to save. If possible, I would love to be able to leave my kids money after I die and my grandkids. It's not going to be a ton, but I would love to gift that to them." The second thing he told me he wanted was to age at home. And he said, I saw my parents age in assisted living. It's not something I'm super interested in. I would love to stay home if I can, but I know it's expensive to stay home. And I need the best deal possible. So I'm searching for what is the best care, but what is also affordable care for me. So he asked me to run two sets of numbers for him. The first set was, he said, let's just say I decide to private pay for my care. I take my chance. I know that means I'll have to move to assisted living, but let's just say I move to assisted living like my dad did when he was 85, and I live there until I'm age 90. What is that going to cost me? And then he said, and then I want you to show me my Avenues numbers and let's do a little comparison. And I said, okay. So I'm typing in my numbers, and this is what we came up together. And I'll add that John, so we worked together this year, he's 75 currently. So this is what we came up with. So in 10 years from now, the cost of assisted living will be much higher. The cost of assisted living will be about $188,000 for 1 year of care. So I said, John, okay, if you move to Porter Hills when you're 85 and you live in assisted living from age 85 until age 90, that is going to cost you about $1.2 million. And he said, okay, it's not surprising, but it's not great. And he said, okay, show me my Avenues numbers. And so we did some more calculations, and this is what we came up with. So I said, John, if you join Avenues when you are 75, so today, you're going to pay your entrance fee of $142,000. And then I took his monthly service fee for Avenues and I turned it into a yearly cost. I increased that at about 5% each year, which our monthly service fee increases on a yearly basis between 3 and 5%. So I did 5 just to be safe. And what we found is if he paid his entrance fee and his yearly cost for Avenues from age 75 until age 90, he will altogether pay about $310,000 for his Avenues membership. Knowing all the while that from age 75 until age 90, He gets to age at home. He's got the freedom, the independence to age where he wants, and knowing that he has access to any level or amount of care that he might need. Care at home, care in a facility-based setting if he decided to take that route. He has that coverage. So for John, thankfully, my calculations paid off, my sweating paid off, because John decided this makes sense for me financially. It helps me save the money that I'm looking for while still having the financial coverage for care. And for him, he was pretty motivated by the fact that he wanted the freedom and independence to age and to live where he wanted, which for him was at home. So I like to close on this slide with this statistic. I'm kind of a research girl. I love statistics and aging related facts, but I read this Harvard study. It's from 2023, and in it, it was talking about how 93% of older adults report that they are interested in aging at home, that that's something that they've thought about, talked about, envisioned. But what the study found interesting, and what I find interesting, is it also reported that of this percentage or of this grouping of people, 21%, only 21% of these people were actually willing to make plans for their aging experience at home. And I find this to be so interesting. Over the years, I've worked with, gosh, maybe hundreds at this point of older adults. And the social worker in me always loves to ask people, what do you envision for aging? What do you want that to look like? And almost always people say, if I could, I would love to age at home. And then my follow-up question almost always is, okay, if you want that, what is your plan for that? And usually I get these blank stares or I get these big eyes and people say, well, I kind of just am hoping that it works out. I got a lot of hope in me. And I say, well, hope is great. Hope is oftentimes something that gets us up in the morning. Hope is beautiful and it's wonderful, but hope is not the same thing as having a plan for aging. Hope is not going to give you a shower one day. And hope is not going to drive you to your doctor's appointments or sit with you at surgery. Hope is great, but hope is not the same thing as having a plan. And so what I will leave you all with today is the encouragement to think about this and to have conversations with your loved ones, with your spouse, with your kids, with a friend that you trust about what do I want my aging journey to look like, and take a step towards making a plan for this. If Avenues fits in that plan, great. Then I would love to talk with you and answer what questions you might have. If it's not, then what else? What else does that plan look like for you? It's an important thing to start thinking about today. And people start thinking about this, gosh, as early as their 60s, 70s. Think about it and ask yourself that question. What is my plan for aging? So we've got a little time here at the end. I wanted to leave some space for possible questions. And I thank you all for your time today, for being with us. Yeah, we have a question. John.
I do. How does long-term care insurance fit into this program?
That's a great question, John. 40% of our members this year already had long-term care insurance, actually, and still decided to join Avenues. We didn't get into this today, but we actually have 2 different Avenues plans. And one of those Avenues plans is actually a less expensive entrance fee. And oftentimes people who have long-term care insurance, I find that they gravitate towards that plan. And I think people with long-term care insurance understand that there's a bit of a gap. Yeah, they've got the financial coverage, but there still is this big question of who is going to care for me? Who's going to actually help me with all of these components related to aging? And most of the time people are relying on their kids for that, or they're hoping that things work out. So that's a great question, John. If you have long-term care insurance, what I'd say is let's have a follow-up conversation about your specific policy. And then I can walk you through what do our two plans look like and how might that work alongside of the coverage that you already have.
That would be very helpful.
Great. Then I will follow up with you about that. What other questions do we have here?
Kate,
Yes,
this is
Julie.
Sue Williams. Oops,
Oh,
sorry.
hi, Sue. No, hi, Sue.
Yes.
How are you?
Julie can go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm here on my mom's behalf, and she's already 89. She is living independently at home, and she's what I would call reasonably healthy.
Sure.
But do you have people in that age group join? And if so, what do their entrance fees look like?
That's a great question. Okay, we have a very wide range of people that join Avenues. I had someone who was 67 join Avenues this year, and I had someone who joined, he is 92 and he qualified. So age alone is not a qualifier. It really is health. And you could be a 93-year-old and have great health and be wildly independent and still qualify for Avenues. It's harder because I think what we know is as we age or when we're in our 90s, things start to happen or pop up, but age alone is not a disqualifier. So I would encourage you, if this is something that you're curious about for your mom, we would get together and talk about it further. And then she could go through the medical underwriting process. The process is not super hard. It really just consists of us reading your medical records. Okay.
Okay. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. All right, Suzanne or Sue,
Um,
how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm
Uh,
well.
I hate
Hi,
to
Penny.
ask this question, but what happens if Avenues becomes insolvent?
Ah, what a good question. And by that, I think you mean what happens if we run out of money?
Right, if you went out of business, what would happen to us, to the investment that's been made?
Good question.
Well, first off, that would be no good. But this
No,
is
that's what I mean.
This is a great question. I think, is that possible? Sure. Could Brio as an entire brand or organization go under? Absolutely. I mean, we've been around for 100-ish years collectively now, and we have not gone under, and we've done quite well and have been good stewards of our resources. But I can't promise you that we'll be here 200 years from now. I hope that we will. I think what we rely on, or at least the peace of mind I would rely on is we are not for profit. So there is a lot of oversight for how all of our programs are managed financially. We have not only a board who oversees that, we've got a financial team, and also some people would say this is scary, but we have to answer to the state. So the state looks at our finances every year. And if Avenues is not being run correctly financially, then they would not give us the stamp of approval every January when we go through our reapproval process. So those components. And then in addition to that, a program like Avenues, we work with a specialist company that does actuarial studies for continuing care at home programs. They specialize in just programs like Avenues. So they have a very heavy influence on how is this program priced? How is it run? How are we deciding what our entrance fees should be? All of that.
Mhm.
So those components.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Lynette, how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
It's good. You look so sunny wherever you are.
Oh, am I on camera? Okay. Great. What is the geographical area? Do you cover Holland?
Oh, that's a great question. Right now, we have said Avenues supports about a 35-mile radius around Grand Rapids. So there are some parts of Holland that it touches very, very briefly. We have had a lot of conversation though about extending to the lakeshore. And I think that that's probably what's next for Avenues because we've had a lot of interest out there. But right now, it would be 35-mile radius around Grand Rapids.
So that would not reach to Lake Macatawa is what I think I hear you saying.
Right now, yes. But I'll say this, a lot of our members have second homes, have a lakeshore house. They spend 6 months out of the year in Florida. And that's completely okay in this program. As long as your primary residency is in Grand Rapids, you can be a member of Avenues, and we can service our members no matter where they are in the United States. Or I'm sorry, globally, I should say. If you are traveling, we've had Avenues members call us from Portugal and say, hey, I'm in Portugal and I have COVID and I do not know what to do. And our navigators have figured out many things for people abroad. So we can service you no matter where you are. It might not mean we're with you in person if you're in Florida and you're having a health issue, but we can do a lot of things virtually or over the phone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. What other questions do we have today? Julie, do you have another question?
I do.
Oh, great.
Let's say that my mom managed to live home for a few more years and her kids become concerned and would like her to have someone round the clock. Does she then have the choice of either having some kind of in-home care that would be covered through Avenues or going to a facility which would be covered through Avenues?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have had Avenues members who have had round-the-clock care at home, but there's also the option to make a transition to a care-based setting, which is really interesting. We haven't had any members who have had the need for that, and most of our people prefer to stay home. But if we had a situation with a member where it wasn't really safe to keep them home anymore, or the type of care that they were needing was exceeding what we could do at home, that would be a situation where, yeah, kids, so you and your siblings and your mom might sit down with the member navigator and have those conversations. It probably wouldn't be overnight that your mom would make that move or transition, but it might be something that the navigator brings up and says, hey, you know, your mom, we're having a hard time meeting her needs at home. She's got a lot of care coming in, and we think there might be some benefits of exploring a care setting. And then they'd walk you through that. It doesn't have to be, if your mom did make a move to a care-based setting, it doesn't have to be Porter Hills, which is interesting. We would provide coverage for your mom in any community here in the greater Grand Rapids area, as long as they provide good care. So if you guys said, or your mom said, you know what, I want to move to Clark, if I'm going to assisted living, then we would say, great, then let's move you there, and we're going to pay for her care once she gets there. And the navigator follows her. So she's overseeing her care, even in assisted living, making sure that it's up to our quality and standard, still managing the medical component of things, all of that.
Okay,
Great
that's
question.
very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for asking that. There's so much nuance to this program. I could give a presentation that's 4 hours long, but you'd be snoring by the end of it. So just know that there's still so much to Avenues. Yes, we've got another question here.
Caitlin, I'm still not totally clear. So if you go into assisted living when you're in this program,
Yeah.
you still pay for the costs of assisted living, correct? And then,
Correct.
And then Avenues covers additional services that you might have while you're there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So if we had a member who made that move to assisted living, a typical assisted living bill each month might be $9,000. That $9,000 bill is coming right to Avenues, and Avenues is paying that for you. Okay, so it's the coverage in a care setting as well.
Okay, so Avenues does cover that then?
We do, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
I was assuming that we would be paying for that, and then whatever additional care we might get while we were in there was covered.
No, because when you move to assisted living, the big chunk of what you're paying for, they usually say it's room and board and care. Well, that's what Avenues covers you for, is your care. So your bill each month, it comes to us. There are some other things like live in an assisted living, like maybe you go to the hair salon each week,
Mhm.
get your hair set. That's something that Avenues wouldn't cover. That's a personal thing.
Okay,
Or maybe you decide to throw a big dinner party in the dining room and have 30 guests. And so you've get this big bill for your dining bill. Avenues wouldn't cover something like that. But the care bill, that big bill that you get consistently each month, that's what Avenues is paying. Great question. Do we have any final questions before we come to a close today?
I'm still confused on the 35-mile limit when you said people can go to the lake or they can be in Florida, I guess.
Yeah, Ellen, that's a great question. To qualify for Avenues, your primary residency has to be in Grand Rapids, within a 35-mile radius around central Grand Rapids. But that's not to say that you have to be in Grand Rapids 365 days out of the year. A lot of our members travel, a lot of them have second homes that they're at. And if you had maybe a lake home on Lake Macatawa, wouldn't that be lovely? And if
Yes.
you do, I love invitations to those places. But if you do, and you're out there and you get sick out there, you can call your member navigator and say, hey, I've got COVID, or I fell, or I'm in the hospital, and your navigator can service you over the phone if you are out of state or out of our radius. So it just means that you really have the freedom to still travel and be where you want and still get our support no matter where you are. But the physical care that we're providing to you as you're aging is within Grand Rapids. So most of our members, if they've got a house in Florida, when they're starting to need more consistent round the clock care, they're moving back to Michigan to actually get that care from us.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Okay, I always promise myself that I'm not going to go over my time, and I'm 8 minutes over. So we're going to come to a close today. I will say that after an event like this, I always reach out to all the people that have been on it to say, A, thank you for coming, but B, to also ask you what questions still remain that we didn't have time for. So expect that from me. And if you have questions, write those down. I would really encourage you, if this is something that your curiosity is piqued at, there are a lot of components yet still about Avenues to talk about. So think about sitting down with me sometime or even talking on the phone, and we can go in a little bit more in depth and talk a little further about Avenues and what this might look like for you. So thank you all for your time today. I so appreciate it. And I hope to connect with you all in the near future. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.